All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Crochet Collectables and Chatting. I am joined by my lovely co-host Maria from the Geeky Crochet. How you doing?
Well, thank you very much, Rayron. This is the first time. I don't know if our audience has seen me because we usually have their cameras off, but we're good. We're very good.
Awesome. And today we are having a special guest for the Triple C. Today we are joined by the Tron TV over from geeksandgamers.com. Welcome, sir. How you doing today?
Doing well. Yeah, I feel kind of bad. I forced you guys to turn your cameras on, but yeah, like I said, I'm a lazy man, and I flip a switch, and all the lights come on, and that's just the way it's already set up. So, but yeah, I'm happy to be here. Appreciate you guys asking me on. So I'm excited to talk about collecting and collectibles.
Awesome. Yeah, and we are definitely
Very cool.
excited to have you today. So
Mm-hmm.
with that, I kind of want to set kind of the ground rules a little bit when it comes to collecting. So I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about like the definition of collecting, just to give us on a common ground when it comes to it. And typically use the Merriam-Webster dictionary just to get a standard starting point. So when it comes to collect or collecting, the main definition that is kind of the standard is to gather or accumulate the object, especially as a hobby. I think most of us can agree that that's where we can typically start from. And with that, kind of goes out to our first question here is how do we define collecting?
Mm.
I'll go ahead and open up to the panel on that one.
Yeah, I mean that's a big question. I think that collecting is very personal. Um, and it's interesting to see the definition. I never really considered what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of inherently know what it means to me, and I think that each person has their own reason why they collect things, and I can only speak for myself. Like I'm a very sentimental person. I I have a hard time sort of living in the moment. I always have, and I tend to live in past memories or like what the future can bring. So
Mhm.
I have a hard time connecting to the reality of now a lot of times, and instead I sort of yearn for times past. So I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's just ingrained in
Mutual
me.
feelings.
Yeah, as a
A
person,
lot
but
of people.
I feel like that's what draws me into it, and a lot of the people that I talk to in the hobby are sort of drawn to it for the same reasons. Normally, when someone gets into collecting, they're looking to rekindle something from their past, from their
Yeah.
childhood. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it be games or toys or whatever, they're going to go for that game that they remember playing
Mm-hmm.
with their family when they were growing up. And I feel like a lot of that happened when we entered lockdown in 2020. A lot of people were sort
Hmm.
of trapped inside, and they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
rekindle those feelings, and we saw prices explode in the collector community. So just in terms of like how do I define it? um, I don't know how I would define it other than to say it's just a very personal pursuit that some I feel like somebody goes on to reconnect with a piece of their past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would definitely kind
Mm-hmm.
of agree with that when it comes to collecting. For me personally, it's more of trying to share and hold on to a memory. I know
Mm-hmm.
I deal with a lot of collecting with trading cards, and Pokemon was definitely one of those standards for me because that's one of the very first things I started collecting with my father. So collecting that type of item just reminded me to the memories that I had with my parents and so forth. And when it comes to collecting, when I collect figurines, when I collect, Hot Wheels cars, when I collect all sorts of different things to like Warhammer 40K, it's things that I enjoy to do. And it's always an extension of myself that I can share visually with some sort of visual medium. And that's what I love about enjoying about collecting is that you can express yourself with the items that you have, collect and share and showcase.
Mm-hmm. 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 I have to agree with both of you, but I would also add. Well, the definition I would say is I completely agree with the dictionary. It's collecting something because of a hobby, and it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to collect rocks. I mean, who hasn't collected rocks at one point? And it's like it's like there, you know, you just look around and say you see a pebble or a stone that's really interesting, or it's has a unique design. You pick it up and you put it in your collection, or you collected stickers, or you collect now people still collect stamps. So it's not only the sentimental thing, because I mean it's obviously that, but it's more like, well, you kind of like this, and you know you want to keep it for yourself, and it does bring back memories. Actually, it does bring back memories. You know? And what Lynn McCurdy says, yeah, collect things that you couldn't have when you were young. I agree, because now like we can get the stuff that we were never able to get when we were kids.
Yeah, somebody said that to me recently. I went to pick up an item, and he commented on that. You know, that now we're adults with expendable income, we can collect what I want. And it was kind of like, you know, an agreeing laugh, but also like I probably spend too much money on the things that I
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
because you want to collect those things you got in the past, but because of inflation, because of rarity, you know, those prices could potentially go up on the thing that you want.
Yeah,
I've been running into.
Yeah, have you guys seen a couple months ago? Some guy on Twitter posted that he bought a Thundercats sword, like the real thing, and I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, he got it! He's like the real, well, like the real sword, but the collectible. It's made out of steel. I'm like, oh my gosh, what would I do with that? I would probably run around with in my house, you know, saying Thundercats, you know, and that's basically it, and put it in a nice glass case. But that's it, you know. Yeah. But he has the money now to buy that thing.
When I was a kid, there were two versions of that sword that I'm aware of. There was one cheap plastic one, you know, because it expanded,
I remember those.
And then there was the one that had the that one had the electronics on it. That was like a nice one. And then they had like just a mold one that was like like a Minecraft sword, basically. You know, with a Thundercat sticker in the middle. That's the one I had. And then a kid I knew had the really expensive one, so I always wanted that one. And I saw that thing recently in complete and packaged for sale. I mean, I don't even want it. It just about maybe throw up the price, you know, because I was like,
I can imagine.
Gosh, you know. But it was just
really hard to collect Thundercat items.
Oh yeah,
it is.
You have to be really committed to that.
Right.
Well, the guy said my wife will probably kill me, but afterwards she will probably play with it, something like that. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, Maria, you came up with a interesting thing there that, you know, you just don't have to collect, you know, stuff that's mass produced. You can collect things that are natural, like you were saying about the rocks and everything. And that's a great thing about the hobby, is that you can literally customize any type of collection that you want to do, from things to buy or things to collect out there in the natural earth. So that's actually a pretty interesting point that you bring up. And it kind of leads to kind of the next question, is that what do we enjoy to collect?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I probably I have a hard time narrowing down my interest. I think because I connect, you know, I grew up through the 80s and 90s, so I connect different periods of my life to different, you know, pieces of pop culture, things that were happening at the time. So I'll feel content in the lines that I'm collecting. Like right now, probably behind me, you can see like Ninja Turtles and Silverhawks and, you know, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Batman, very cool. Very cool.
I see the Home Alone cam recorder there.
Stuff, yeah, Home Alone and Nightmare Before Christmas. Home Alone is my favorite movie, and Nightmare Before Christmas shortly, you know, they're behind. And then, you know, like I'm a huge grunge fan, so Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Michael Jackson, you know.
Oh man,
I constantly see stuff that I want, you know, Nintendo, Ghostbusters, and all of that stuff. So I'm constantly like trying to control myself, because I do feel like you can get so spread so thin. That's the way I started I started going after things that I remembered, you know, video games and things that I remembered. And then, oh, that's a cool toy. Oh, that's a cool toy. Because the only thing I had from my childhood was a very short stack of comics and a few G.I. Joes. You know, I was collecting a few G.I. Joes and video games. And then I started branching out into more and more and more. And I ended up having to really reduce the things that I was collecting so I could get some of the cooler stuff. Because if I'm collecting such a wide base, I can't go deep. And that was so I think I'm going to cut deep on the things I have pretty much right now. Like video games, I'm still kind of like all over the place on, but I am very much a Nintendo fanboy. So it's hard to say. I mean, some things that I go really hard on are Silverhawks, Home Alone, Nintendo, and you know, I was really hard on going hard on Ninja Turtles for a while, but I kind of backed off of those a little bit. So, and G.I. Joe, those are some of the areas where I really focus.
Yeah, and for my collection, it's usually, now everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Sailor Moon. It's my favorite anime of all time because that was my favorite show growing up. So I wanted to capture those memories growing up. It's just great escapism. But kind of some other things that I collected, and I'll go ahead and bring on my camera here. I'll show you some goodies.
Here comes the good part.
All right.
Good part, part one.
If my Streamlabs OBS will.
Well,
but
in the meantime,
yeah, go ahead, Maria, while I get this set up here.
Yeah, I was actually going to say yes. Again, Lynn said, "Don't pass up something you might regret later not buying," and that reminded me of Ro from the Scuttlebutt podcast. I don't know if you've heard him or you've seen his stuff. And he once put out a tweet said, "Ask me anything." And he recently bought an Ahsoka Tano crocheted character from me. So I'm like, okay, what is your most expensive item in your collection, and when did you get it? So he said that he bought a lightsaber from this convention, or maybe not even a convention that he like intended to go but just passed by. He was on work for something on a trip, and he was working, and his friend said, "Hey, there's a convention, let's go check it out." And they both checked it out, and they kind of separated at one point, and all of a sudden, you know, Ro came back with this thing and a face full of guilt. And he said, "What did you do?" It's like, "I couldn't pass this." No, it was a saber that cost $1,000. It's like $1,000 in just an items collection. And I'm like, whoa.
There are a few things that I've passed up that I regret right now. And they were higher dollar like that, but I still, you know, kicked myself a little bit. You know, and he's right. I mean, really the time to buy it is when you see it. Like if you see something and it sort of might go against what I just said in terms of like culling down your collection. But honestly, you just have to be honest with yourself and say, like, how am I going to feel about this if I leave it? Because if you see it, that's when you buy it. Right. Because if you're not going to see it again. You can pretty much find whatever you want online these days, eBay or whatever, sometimes. But there's some like one of a kind, you know, grails out there that even online you're only going to see pop up every now and then. There's stuff I look for online, and I have searches in eBay that are saved, and when they pop up, I jump on it because I'm not going to see this stuff in person. There are some Home Alone pieces that I have in my collection. I'm just not going to see it in person. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to come across this in a flea market or a thrift store or whatever. If I do, yippee me, but it's just not going to happen. So, you know, it's definitely, I agree with that. You know, make sure that you're okay passing it up if you know, see it, and also just don't get yourself in any type of financial strapping, you know, situation. I mean, you can't collect it all. You know,
yeah, it's true.
And you have
so
to
we'll leave that
start
for our
somewhere and
follow-on
pace
question.
yourself.
that I got, which is basically what rules do we set for our collection. So we'll get to that in a minute, but I just want to showcase some things that I got from that's very treasurable to me from when I was growing up from the 90s. So right here, this is actually my father's collection that he passed along to me. And these are basically the trading cards from Star Wars, from A New Hope.
Oh, those
So
are
when they
awesome.
Very
came out.
nice. Very nice.
So those are from
So-
the
Very
original
nice.
release. Those are from.
Yes.
Oh wow,
Wow.
that's cool.
And then this kind of led to my other collection, which is actually the first collection ever. And my father and I actually started to collect these. So right here is probably my prized possessions. So this right here comes from the
Pokemon.
original Pokemon from the 90s. So we started to collect all of these.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I don't have any first edition of the Charizard. I kind of missed out on that one, but I do have the first 3 sets all completed here.
Wow, those are cool. My son would flip out over these. I never got into Pokemon myself, but he did, and that's one of the things. Like, he's always been a collector at heart. Like, you talk about picking up rocks and stuff.
Mhm.
When he was a little boy, 4 or 5, we'd find, clean out his pockets to throw his pants in the laundry, and you find little rocks and paper clips and bottle caps. Like, what is all this stuff? You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
It's my collection.
Yeah,
It's my
exactly.
collection.
Yeah, he would treasure it. So he got in. This is one of the first things he got into after he got out of Thomas the Tank, and we had to go back and buy some of those high-dollar Charizards and stuff.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow.
He doesn't. He has a lot of those still in there. I don't know anything about them, but they're just cool, man. They're just cool looking, really.
Yeah.
And so this is the jungle set. My father and I then realized that there was these first edition stamps that are on these. So my jungle collection here, which is the 3rd set to ever come out, we got it all in first edition.
Nice.
So yeah, this is the collection that started everything else. And so kind of
That's
to piggyback off of that, what was your first item that you guys got that kind of inspired you to build the collection of your own? Or what would be that first item?
For me, like, I only have a few things left over from childhood. Like I said, from like my real childhood, being a 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old or whatever, that was never purged, I have a few comic books. So I had some comics and drawings and stuff that I did. Like, I've always been a big Moon Knight fan, so I had some of that stuff. And like, you talk about cards, that's one of the things I pulled down, because I recently picked these up, but they kind of go along with something I already had. I picked up this series of Marvel cards.
Ooh, whoa.
Yeah, they all
Those
connect.
look nice.
Yeah, they're all like, they're just really cool looking, and you see Moon Knight is right there.
Oh,
front
look
and
at
center.
that.
Very
And,
nice. That looks so nice.
Yeah, every page is like that. It's like a battle scene. Well, this Moon Knight card, I was digging through my stuff a couple of years ago, and this Moon Knight card, is actually pretty important to my childhood, because I drew this when I was a little kid.
Wow.
I was probably like 11 years old or something, and I drew this, and I was like, I remember looking at something when I was drawing that, and I didn't trace it. I know I drew it off of a picture. Well, that's the back of the card.
Wow.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Oh, cool.
So it's just one of those things that, that's a visceral connection to my childhood right here, because I spent hours as a kid sitting there, toiling away on this thing. And so I never really got rid of everything from my from my childhood, because I had those comics. But along the way, things like toys and video games, got lost. So there came a point when I had those things sitting in the closet, but I was not a collector anymore. And when I was about 16 or so, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, he was about 18, and he came across a lot of G.I. Joe figures. and he got that lot, and we kind of split it up. And so I have some of those from that lot. They're not like in great condition. They were just played with. This is a Cobra Commander, and this is a Storm Shadow from that lot. And so
wow, cool.
I had these when I was 16, right? I was a little bit older, and I'd already gotten rid of mine. And this was like my second, acquiring of these. So I held on to those for years and years and years. And I never really had space. I moved around a lot. I never really had space to like acquire a bunch of stuff. So I kind of had those things. But the thing that really set the fire off probably 5 or so years ago was actually these watches. I found these Burger King watches, the whole set of Nightmare Before Christmas Burger King watches. And I had these as a kid. And I remember these coming out. I remember going to Burger King. I had this one. And I had a couple of the other ones over there. There's several designs. And they're just, so nostalgic for me. I found them all for like $15.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what?
Wow.
What? And so I just like got reinterested in collecting stuff again, and it just, then one thing led to another. Then I'm stockpiling stuff for one day when I get a bigger place, and the closet's starting to swell, and here I am. It just kind of like grew. So, but yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things. I had a few lingering pieces from childhood, but that was probably what really drew me back in really heavily into collecting.
Very cool.
What about you, Maria? What would be that one piece that you could get, or just something to get you started in a collection?
Well, because I was going to say, it's like, I sell my stuff. I don't buy any, purchase or collect. I think, well, I do. I have to say I'm a sucker for books, mainly. So, for example, if I could choose to collect something, because I personally do still move around pretty much. So for me to keep a collection as wide and as big as the both of you, it would probably would take a little bit of effort. But I would definitely start collecting mangas, for example, like collections of mangas. Mine's
growing out of control for sure. I need another shelf.
The thing is that when I was a kid, just like Rayron, and that's how we started this podcast, this live stream of collectibles and chatting, because we both love Sailor Moon, and the three of us are all kids of the 90s. So we grew up with that, and I would probably start that, and I would probably go for something like rarities, as in like the sword of the Thundercats. For example, that kind of stuff, I would say, yes, I would keep that. I would definitely keep that, because it's not something that you can get so easily. So, for example, to give that away or just pass it by, we're like, I don't know. I don't really know I could do that. So, but yes, I would probably start with those.
That's awesome. So another interesting collection that you have, Tommy Tron, and I'll grab a little snippet here from one of your videos.
He's sweating.
So you are definitely a diehard when it comes to VHS collection, which
I'm nice,
because that is pure nostalgia of the 90s.
Oh man, yes.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about your collection, especially this little haul that you had here?
I really like retro tech as well. So like cassette tapes, VHS players, all of that stuff. In fact, I've kind of really become interested in Betamax and and certain, higher end players. So I'm kind of falling deeper and deeper into the wormhole. This actual haul, I think I ended up with over 450 VHS there for like $35. Look, people just get rid of them. People just don't know about them. They're in the way. They're big. They're hard to store, and you have to store them in a certain way or they become moldy. So they're kind of a pain to deal with a lot of times. But you can also find them in a lot of thrift stores for really cheap. So there's just something about holding the VHS for me that is ultra nostalgic. And honestly, I think one of the first ones that got me going was, there were a couple. So I picked this one up. This is G.I. Joe the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I really, I knew I wanted this, and so I did a lot of research to make sure I got the right one. And this is when I learned that there were a few different, like the first and second and third press of movies mattered. Like back in the day, movies just weren't available all the time. They'd come out and they'd be on the shelf for a while, and then they'd go away, and something else, they're huge. Something else would have to fill that spot. So maybe 10 years later, they'd re-release it on VHS. So you see a lot of movies that were like, 10-year, 5-year releases, whatever. They would open the Disney vault and release movies. That was a thing. So I knew I wanted the original press on this. So I did a lot of research to find the one from 1987. And it turns out that this is the giveaway right here. Wow. That it says a full length feature or animated feature film on the bottom, and it's Celebrity Kids. So there's a few different versions and stuff. And this really got me. I was always just a little bit interested in VHS, but this really got me into it. And then
Very cool.
my dad, when he passed away, I was cleaning out his house, and I found this Ghostbusters 1 and 2 combo set.
Oh wow!
Whoa, cool.
That's a gem.
So it was like super nostalgic because I remembered my dad loved Ghostbusters, and I remember vividly going to see Ghostbusters 2 with him in the theater. So this like hit me.
Yeah.
And then when I opened it, I was like, oh, hey, what is this?
The insert.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah, there was the original toy insert from, now that's not a first press of Ghostbusters, obviously. But it's nostalgic to me because my dad.
There's your shopping list.
And there you go, right? So it's this stuff, like, man, I just love looking at this stuff because you can't find this anywhere else. People threw this stuff away, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of started to really build for me, and then I started seeing a lot of deals and lots for sale. People just getting rid of them, and I'm like, man, these things are just so cheap. So I started picking them up. And then I started seeing about, the difference in sealed copies and how much they were going for. And right now, the sealed VHS market is, for certain movies, is really going crazy. So, for certain ones, they're just super rare, hard to find, and people, didn't take care of them. So, I've got several now. I've got several hundred, I don't even know how many, and I'll watch them. Like, I have a VHS player. I just enjoy the graininess of it, the slight flicker, the imperfections in the film on a CRT TV, and I run it. I actually run my movies mostly on a 1985 mono, a Sharp VHS player that has mono sound, so it's like as bad as you can get. But I love the experience of that because that's what it was back in the day, and my kids sit down and watch them with me. So all these old movies, they're not like unusual movies in most cases. Like last couple nights ago, we watched Bloodsport with Van Damme, Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's not an unusual movie, but it was cool to watch it on VHS, and they had never seen it, so it gave us an opportunity to sit down together and watch it. So I like collecting things that you can enjoy, like video games, and I think that movies are right there with it, because you can sit down, you can kind of get a setup going for yourself, and even if you don't have a CRT TV or whatever, you can get a VHS player for really, that's what I tell people, they're really cheap at the thrift store. If you just go looking, I see them all the time for $10, $15. I just found this a couple months ago this was a sealed
Wow, that's
VHS.
the Rewinder. The Rewinder. I remember those.
Yeah, like look at the graphics on it, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
It's just for me.
Whoa.
It just takes me back, man. It's just like I have this. It's up there on the shelf, and it, like, you can see it peeking through an area, and for me, that's just, I enjoy that. I enjoy coming in the room and seeing it back there in its little corner, because it just takes me back. I think this is from '89, and it was still sealed in there, and I got it for $6. $6.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
It's like,
I remember those.
Yeah. And you don't know how useful these things are, actually. Like a VHS player
I remember.
from 1985.
Oh yes, I remember.
To rewind. So
yeah.
In one of your videos,
lifesaver.
when you go out to your thrift stores in your videos, you found that red rewind car, and man, that threw me back, because I actually had one of those, because I always remember putting the VHS in there and just watching it light up, essentially, and it's just rewinding the tape. Like, that was pure nostalgia for me.
Yeah, those are really cool. They had a lot of different styles, and that was one of the cooler styles. But again, like, I'm at the point where if they're dirty or if I have to put a lot of work into them, I'll just leave them. But if you were just starting out, if you're like, I need something, you take that thing home. If you have an air compressor, spray it with some compressed air. If not, wipe it out with a rag, blow it out with a vacuum or whatever. I don't know, you can clean it up enough to make it work and have yourself something, to watch. So for me, it's an interesting hobby, and there are a lot of VHS movies out there that, for very cheap, and it's not something that's as hard to find as like video games. Most times I go and the video games are stolen or picked over or whatever, or they kind of like look up the prices and know what they have. They don't ever look up prices on VHS. They just throw them out there. It's $1 or $2, and you can find some cool ones.
Right. Cool. Wow. So the next topic I wanted to talk about kind of falls in line to some of these articles that I found here on Twitter. So we've got this post here, and this individual said, "This made me very seriously contemplate skipping a figure. I've never done that. I've skipped reissues, but never a new character. This is not good, Hasbro. There really is no way to defend this. I'm still going to get it, just not happy about it." And the whole backstory behind this is that you got this new figure. It came out from the book of Boba Fett, and it's basically, when you look at it, it looks like a new character, but when you analyze it a little bit closely, it is a reissue from Chewbacca. And when you compare it to another black figure right here, you can see that they kind of took the body and just spray painted it black. And I went out to my local GameStop, and I actually found another Chewbacca figure, has the same body and everything. So kind of the question here is, what rules do you put on collecting, or what rules do you want to implement, so that way you don't have these big collections, or in this case, reissues that seem kind of choppy or trying to make a quick buck?
Yeah. Well, for me, I try to avoid being a completionist on things, especially newer lines. I can easily go down that rabbit hole. Just the type of personality I have. I start to get more and more. I started to do that with the NECA the cartoon turtles up there. Like, I started to collect all the figures and stuff, and trying to get them all as they were coming out. And then I started running out of room, And I pause and I'm like, wait, do I really need that, figure that was only seen in one, scene in one cartoon of the whole X amount of seasons? Probably not. Because for me, turtles weren't that, you know, important, I guess, to my childhood.
Mhm.
But something like Silverhawks, Super 7 is re-releasing Silverhawks. They're doing Silverhawks Ultimates right now, and there's a company called Ramen Toy, just like the noodles ramen, but toy, and they're doing a line of Silverhawks as well. I'm going to collect all of those because
Mhm.
we have not seen Silverhawks since 1986. 87 there
Wow.
was a short second run of the line, but they died. The cartoon only ran for one season. They had, you know, a line of toys, and then they started a second line, and it just died. They moved on from it. So for me, the rule there is like there are a lot of companies doing Ninja Turtles right now. You got NECA, you've got Super 7, you got Playmates. So much is coming out, and then they just announced a whole bunch this weekend. So there's a lot there to choose from. So I try not to be a completionist on any of those lines. But there's something that I'm very passionate about that doesn't have a lot of options. I'm probably going to be a completionist on that, which is Silverhawks. And so for other lines, like the further you get away from the things that I'm extremely passionate about, the less extra characters and reissues I'm going to collect. I started collecting the Masters of the Universe retros when they were coming out, and it kind of hooked me in, and I feel like I got the ones I needed. I got a bunch of different Skeletor versions that they released. I got the Battle Cat and the Panther and Battle Armor He-Man and Skeletor, and those are the ones that I remembered having as a kid. So I got the reissues on those these past year when they released them, and I'm done. I'm not going to collect all of the extra characters because I'm not that passionate about the line. So for me, I'm always just kind of keeping myself in check with being a completionist and really asking myself, is this the thing that I want to spend $50 on, or can I get something I really want for $50? Right. So because there's only so much, money available. There's no unlimited funds there. So, I don't know. Hopefully that's like a peek into my brain. I'm like,
oh, that's good.
Really,
That's good. Yeah.
Strange in how I go about it, but I think really just kind of managing the funds you have available and really reminding yourself that you can't collect it all. So really know where you want to focus.
Yeah, completionist is definitely my biggest problems because I'm always into that mindset that I gotta have everything. And the thing is it kind of stemmed from that Pokemon collection, because back in the day, those type of cards, they only had like 100 cards for the set. So it's like you get a couple of booster boxes and you can get the entire collection. Nowadays, it is impossible because there's like 200 and something cards per set nowadays, and they print less and less of the rares that you need, which means those type of rares skyrockets in price. So it's one of the weird things with my Pokemon collection, because it went from being a completionist to, okay, now I've actually got to set rules for this thing because I can't get them all. The irony in that, because it's, you got to collect them all. But
yeah, exactly.
So what was interesting is that it was the first collection that I had to change my mindset. And so it went from got to collect every card to actually, okay, I got to redefine how I want to do this. And so the way I've done it is now I just want a card per each Pokemon that's out there, because it's like 1,000 of them out there now. So it's like, as long as I have a card that represents a Pokemon, then I'm fine with that. And that's just some of the rules you had to say, because exactly as you said, Tommy Tron, money we don't have that much of it. And so you got to figure out, okay, what is more valuable to yourself. And for me, it also dictates on the brand. So for me, obviously, Sailor Moon, that franchise is my number one to go to. If I see anything Sailor Moon related, I'm going to go after it. And those are the type of funds that I allocate towards because that is just my passion. And then just recently now, the biggest struggle I'm having right now is the manga collection, because now I'm dealing with all these great stories and there's so many volumes of it. Like now I have to pick and choose what stories I want to get
Yeah.
into, which is crazy. I never thought I would find myself in that
It's
situation,
insane.
but
It's insane.
now it's like, when you go to manga, you got these box sets, which they're a great deal if you can get your hands on one of those. But again, when it comes to funding, do you want to allocate all your money towards one dedicated story, or do you want to branch out and buy several volume 1 edition stories so that way you can get your feet wet into each and every one of them? And so I find myself trying to figure out, what do I want to invest in? So I find that very interesting nowadays as a collector. And recently, I hate Transformers sometimes because with the new Beast Wars Transformers that's coming out, they started to re-release the old 90s Beast Wars toys. And so it's like, oh man, I gotta get these again because this was my childhood. And with inflation and everything, it was like $20 back in the day, and now like $50, and it's like, oh no, my childhood. But I eventually pick that up, and that's usually, again, the rules. It's like, if I have to prioritize modern day stuff versus stuff that reminds me of my childhood, I'm going to go after the childhood stuff first for my collection.
I don't know if you guys remember, or if you had them in the States, but here, in general, Latin America, there's these books in which you had the figurines that you had to buy the pack, and you didn't know what was in the pack. You just bought the pack and you kind of started sticking on like the figurines on it. So there were, I think you had it. So yeah, I think you have it.
Go ahead.
They were Sailor Moon candy, and recently, actually, Peru went to the that one. No, that's not that one.
Oh,
or you were talking about that one?
I was thinking of like the docking machines.
No. You went to your local I don't know, 7-Eleven, and they had these packs of cards, and they were sealed, so you would buy the pack of 6, but you didn't know what you had inside. Right. So the idea was you had to complete like the books with all the stickers. So I think it was 2018, the last soccer World Cup. So Peru went, after 36 years, Peru went to the World Cup, and everybody was so excited. A lot of people went. They got indebted. They mortgaged their house. It was insane. And these books came out, and childhood memories. All these adults, between their 30s and their 40s, bought these books, and they started to go wild after these cards. And the idea was you had to collect all of the football players, the soccer players in this case. You had to collect them all. So before the World Cup, they were starting to get rare. There were some of them, you just didn't have it, and you kept buying packs, and you keep getting repetitions until finally they started a black market. They literally started a black market and saying, I'm selling this figure. This is a rare. And people started to, purchase these things in, like, if a pack of 6 would cost you $1, this card alone would probably cost you $50. It just went wild. Everybody was after them because the idea was to collect all of them and to fill your little book with stickers. And I was asking my friends, well, what are you going to do with that after? It doesn't matter. The idea is to have it. They're like, yeah, I understand the feeling.
Yeah, that's the secondary market, because I know here in the US you can go to like eBay or to Facebook Marketplace, and you can have a set value for like those rare cards and so forth. And sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it just really isn't. And just to add to the nostalgia baiting here, so this is the second re-release of those Beast War toys I was talking about earlier.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. There
There
you
you go,
go,
Supplement.
sub. There you go.
So
Oh, nice.
that is the childhood right there.
Yeah, those are cool. Those sticker books, if I'm thinking of what you're thinking of, the ones in the US were put out by Panini, Panini, and it was, you would have to peel off the sticker and complete the picture,
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, and so I've thought about going down that rabbit hole with a couple of the things, because those things have been around for a while. And so they have Silverhawks, they have, G.I. Joe and all this stuff. And yeah, if you look up like Silverhawk sticker book, it'll come up, I'm sure. And the problem is, then you have to go back and find all of these old stickers from the 80s and try to fill it out. And then what do? You just have a sticker book. So I don't know,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's definitely something that you have to
It's
be careful
true.
with.
Yeah, and we talk about, those
very
sticker books and everything, and we're starting to see that in the action figures a little bit too. We're seeing a lot of these Marvel
Yes.
figures come with like, okay, you've got a hand of a figure here, so that means you got to collect the whole series, so that way you can get the, the additional figure. So that's kind of how they get you nowadays.
Yeah, they almost got me with the Stranger Things figures that are out right now.
Oh, nice.
I forget the company that makes them, but they're made in the style of the old Ghostbusters fright effect features, or whatever. I can't remember the name of them right now, but you would squeeze their legs and their head would pop up or whatever, and stuff like that. They're made in that. They have like an action to them, so they're made in that vein. And the name is like on the tip of my tongue. It's going to distract me so much, but they have a Build-A-Figure for the Demogorgon in there, and he looks really cool, but then you have to buy all of the people to get it. So I'm like, I can't do that. It's just not, I don't have a space on my shelf for that. Like, there's just no spot for that,
Yeah.
Very cool. I have to ask you, Tommy, is that the Home Alone recorder?
Yeah, this is
that you have back there.
Yeah, this is this one is the, and I have the box too. So let me lay these guys down. It'll take me just a second. So yeah, this came out in a few different variations.
Wow.
So the first one that was released in '92 didn't say deluxe on it. Figure out my fingers. So it didn't say deluxe. It just said Talk Boy. And there was no, let me see. See how there's 3 positions on that?
Yeah.
Well, the top one, if you could read it, it says slow. So it's got the slow-mo like in the movie. Slow motion. Right?
Yeah.
The first one, believe it or not, they released this thing without slow motion. And so all it was just to record your voice and play it back, and kids hated it because it didn't do what the movie did. And so they sold like crap. And the box didn't say Talk Boy Deluxe either. It just said Talk Boy. And let's see here on the back, like it says here on the thing, it says voice change, slow motion switch on this one. It's advertising it on this one. And so that when they fixed it, they went through like a running change. The first thing they did, a box is a whole lot easier to change than this thing. So you'll see this. You'll see where you get the Talk Boy and the box both say deluxe. Then you'll see it where somebody's selling one and the box says deluxe, but the recorder just says Talk Boy, but it has the slow motion switch. So what happened is, like, there was a cutover. When they first changed them over, some of the first ones to come off the line, the box was changed, but the front wasn't changed, but it did have the slow motion switch. So there's actually 3 versions is what I'm getting at.
Wow.
One that doesn't have the slow motion.
Yeah.
One that says only Talk Boy with the slow motion and has this box. And then one that has everything like this. So
did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's actually like, this is one of the things that we talk about being a completionist, going down a rabbit hole. There's no way to like everything from Home Alone, but this is one of the areas where I try to, like, I want to have a formidable, collection. I want to have a respectable in the collecting world Home Alone, collection, not just like amongst my friends. So I'm actually on the lookout. This is one of the better boxes that I've seen. That's why I picked this one up, and it's got a Toys R Us sticker. So I'm actually on the lookout for the other two in really good shape. And, eventually I'll run into them and, complete that collection. I don't even have room to display them all right now, but I'll figure something out.
Right.
But
nice.
That's one of the
very
things.
cool.
All right. And kind of for the last topic, as we slowly wrap up this episode, it's a great debate in the collecting community, especially when it comes to these little guys. So good old Pop Funkles. So it's been always debated that it's very frowned upon in the collecting community. Other people really like it. It's always a debate that it brought normies into the collection. So what do we think about the good old Pop Funko figurines?
I have a few. Not a whole lot, but I do have like
right, of course.
This one was a Hot Topic release, and he's got the snowflake, and then I have Zero. And this is when they first came out. Like, I was like, these are pretty cool looking, just like everybody else. I have a couple for Bret the Hitman Hart. I have a couple of those. I will probably end up picking up a couple of Home Alone ones, but I am not really, thankfully, those don't have me hooked, because I go in toy stores. Like, there's a toy store near me that you go in, and I think it's in one of my videos, but I'll be going back there anyway. There's literally a freaking warehouse wall of Pop. I mean, I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? If I was in here looking for something and they're like 6 deep and they're different,
oh wow,
I would go nuts in here trying to find something. I would feel so much anxiety because I'm like, it could be here, it could be here, I would never, I feel so bad for those people trying to be any type of completionist on Pops. I think they look cool.
I will raise my hand to that one, because I fell into that rabbit hole, and I've got boxes full of the stupid things. Because what's interesting about Pop Funko is that it's really the only media type that really encompasses all franchises. I've never seen anything like it before. I mean,
That's true.
I don't say the 1/6s, but the 1/12 scale, I believe, figurines came close. But this is the first time I've seen, from Pokemon to Sailor Moon to Digimon to insert anime, insert movie, TV references to sports. I have never seen anything like it. And I fell into that rabbit hole because I wanted to collect it all, because they're all the same scale and I can display it. But yeah, I had to put rules on that because it was just getting way too much.
Yeah.
I think they had it also with this movie with Russell. Was it Russell Crowe? No, it wasn't Russell Crowe. It was, Big Trouble in Little China. They made figurines, Pop Funk figurines of that. I'm like, what? This is like, I mean, it wasn't a really, really huge box office hit, and they actually made figurines of those. I'm like, people are smart.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how they can make money with all the franchising licenses they're doing. I just don't get it. Yeah,
that's a good point, because I mean, they're not tremendously expensive at retail. They they'll put a dent in your wallet if you go try to buy a bunch of them, but it's not too bad. So I don't
Amazing.
know. I respect them. I respect the collectors of them, and kind of chasing that dream of having them all. And I feel for them, because like I said, I get anxiety when I look at a wall like that. For me, I feel fortunate that I only have been interested in a few, and that's where I've been able to keep it. So it hasn't really hooked me.
Yeah, I'm now in the rabbit hole of all the Pokemon ones that are coming out, and with 1,000 of them, I'm screwed. So I
No
already got a
way.
few of them on pre-order now. So it's like that's really the only one I collect now because I finished my Sailor Moon one. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah,
And
oh man, such a rabbit hole.
Dunadan says he's been trying to find Jack Burton, but he's pricey.
Right.
He is.
Mm.
And actually, Dunadan is one of the people who has in his collection of Lord of the Rings, he has one of my my crochet figures of Aragon, one of a kind. That you're not gonna find on eBay. I can assure you.
Very cool.
Yeah, and that actually goes to another interesting quick question here is what is that one of a kind thing you have in your collection? So for me, it's obviously the Pokemon cards from the 90s. And so Tommy Tron and Maria, what would be that one item that you would find special or that you would want to have in the future?
Mine, I have, I showed it on Bragging Rights. I have a retail store VHS display, Home Alone display, and
I remember that.
I way underpaid for it, and I still paid some money for it, but I underpaid for it because I've never seen another one and whole together, and so that's the thing right now that I think that would be my most unique piece, because everything else I feel like is cool, but even if it's rare or unusual, I don't think that there's like a handful of these in the world.
It's a trinket. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with that thing, I think there's probably like a handful that survived. So
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, the only thing right now that I can say that I don't mind if I don't sell is my Sailor Moon, my Sailor Moon crochet figure. That's the only collectible you could say that I don't mind not selling, for example, because I think she turned out so nice, so beautiful, and you're not going to see another one like her ever. So I actually had my seamstress do the dress and everything, and she's just a work of art. But if I could buy something to have and to collect, I fell in love with that sword. I love Thundercat.
Yeah, the Umra sword or something like that.
The sword of
1,000. I want to say sword 1,000 troops, but that's World of Warcraft, so I can't. I
forgot. Anyway, but the sword that Lionel used to summon the Thundercats. If I could bet my money, I would probably go with that. I know that I have a soft spot also for lightsabers, but for collecting, I would probably go for that. Yeah, I mean, just to have it, it's like, whoa, it's like the real sword. I mean, figuratively speaking.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people that collect those swords out there. I've seen plenty of them at malls and so forth. But yeah, we are slowly coming to an end. Everyone, again, thanks to Tommy Tron TV for joining us for our very first guest on the Triple C. Tommy Tron TV, what do you have coming up?
Well, I basically collect, as you guys are seeing, all things 80s and 90s. So I have a couple of different series that we're really focused on the channel right now. One is called Retro Hunting, and we go out to thrift stores, garage sales, flea markets, retro toy stores, game stores in search of that stuff. And then another one is the Collector's Life, where I obviously collect stuff that's retail focused on 80s, 90s IP. So that's the type of thing that I do there. Maybe some unboxings if I've just ordered a random thing. But if it's like a toy that I want to show off and talk about, I'll also do a toy review on it. So those are the three major things that I kind of have going on. And then first Monday of the month, every month, we do Bragging Rights over on Geeks and Gamers. So that's usually, yeah, it's really fun. It's a lot of fun that we have over there. And so, we compete over there for to see who has the best pickups for the month. And then following that show, the Wednesday following that show, I usually drop a behind the scenes video for my pickups. So yeah, my videos drop every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So, you know, set your reminders and check it out.
And I've also sent a link in the chat so you guys can go follow Tron over there. Maria, what do you have coming up?
Oh my God, what I don't have coming up. Okay, let's start. So tomorrow we are going to be doing an After the Weekend episode, a special episode, because we weren't able to do it last week. We were scheduled. We're going to be reviewing The Mummy. So Tommy Tron, I don't know if you know that with my co-host R2 the Icky, we have a show about the 80s and 90s movies, nostalgia reviews. We review all these great films that we watched when we were kids. So and that's every second Monday. So tomorrow we're going to be having a special guest, which is General Shinobi, Shanti from the Scuttlebutt podcast. She's going to be joining us. We're going to be reviewing The Mummy. And then I'm pulling up a special panel for a special episode of After the Weekend. I don't want to give it out yet because I have one more person who has to either confirm or cancel. But it's definitely going to be a blast because I have like 4 or 5 people on this panel for this 80s movies, this animated 80s movies. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's in March. So yeah, it's going to be a blast.
And I've also dropped that link for The Mummy review coming in less than 24 hours. Yeah. So that is awesome. And then from myself, yeah. I've got so many manga reviews. I am so far behind. I've got at least 3 more videos to make over on the Timeless Escapism channel. And then on this channel with the Endless Collectables, I've got some Digimon figures coming up along with some more pop vinyl. So I'll be working on those as well. So with that, thank you so much again to Tron Chibi from geeksandgamers.com for joining us on this very special episode of the Triple C.
Thank you.
And with that, wing hugs to all, and to all a good night.